not got anything confirming it yet, so. Okay, we should be live, and I'm just waiting for confirmation. We've not come up on my phone yet. I'm going to turn the volume down so I don't blow everybody's ears off on the microphone, but that's saying we're live. Hopefully we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, let us know if you can see us. Should be myself and the Iron Man, live and direct to your screens. Yep, we're on, mate. I can see myself. There it is.
Excellent.
Tony Kitowski, welcome to the show, son. Tell you what. Hey, give us a front forearm, Tony. Let's see what we're working with now. Yeah, there you go. It's back. Now, I think as a good starting point, mate, let's get straight into the brass tacks of what we're here to talk about, your form. And it's fair to say that you've just come back from a serious operation. You had, well, what were we looking at there? Was it a bad injury you had suffered, or was it just sort of repairing the joint over repetitive strain? What had you done in there, mate?
All right, so it was multiple injuries in my elbow. I guess I'll start. Obviously, I had your typical bone spurs and minor tears that every arm wrestler has. That's normal. So that got out. The two main ones was number one, the UCL. Number two is the UCL. That wasn't even the main problem. The UCL was like your ACL in your knee. It holds your two bones together essentially. The UCL all tore up, so I had to get that completely reconstructed. They put a band around it, some sort of elastic band to protect it. So I had before the surgery, I had a lot of flexibility sideways, almost like side pressure. So if I would apply side pressure, it wouldn't be all there. It was almost like a rubber band backwards when my upper arm hit. So that got completely repaired. But the main part of the surgery is when I was pulling Sam Harris during that third match, when he beat me, he had got me over to the side, and I jolted sideways to try to put pure side pressure on him to bring him down.
Yep.
As I did that, my pronator ripped off my bone. So when I did feel it, it felt like a piece of paper tearing in my elbow, or just below my elbow. So,
and what had you actually done, mate? What was the extent of the damage?
So my pronator was ripped off the bone. That was a major surgery.
Completely ripped off the bone. And had it gone through the actual pronator itself, or had it taken the bone out with it?
No, it just the tendon itself ripped out of the bone.
Holy shit!
It fused back through the bone. And that fourth match, when I had to pull Sam again, I did notice, and I didn't understand why I didn't have any pronation at the time. Obviously, I had that. So, but I did have enough gas in the tank left to beat him, but I wouldn't have beat him again if I had to pull him after that. But so that was my main part of the surgery, was my pronator, and that's what took so long to heal. And that's also, it was about a 9 to 12 month long healing process. So once that was complete, I could start working on my pronation strength. And obviously, there was nothing there, right? No pronation left in my.
I'm just reading the comments here, Tony, and we're getting a lot of stick about they can hardly hear you. You're doing a classic wanker Dalek with a You ever watch the Fix show, mate? We get abuse whenever Ryan Bowen's on because his microphone's knackered, and they're all throwing in. We can hardly hear Tony. Yeah. Have you got your comments up on screen? You need to be reading some of these. There's some good stuff. We love a bit of wanker Dalek. Andy Beckett's just coming with that. There's a few of them on there. Absolute quality. No, to be honest, lads, in the chat, we were just talking about that before we came on. We think it may be an issue with the Wi-Fi at Tony's end, but you might just have to give us a big time shout, Tony. I think they must all be struggling to hear you, getting a lot of comments on that at the moment. Do apologise, guys. Hopefully it picks up a little bit. Can everybody hear me okay, or is it just at Tony's side? Let us know in the comments if you can, guys. We'll just see what pops up. Hopefully.
Maybe it'll help a little bit.
Yeah. Love it. We love a technical early on. Nothing we can't handle.
So yeah, can you hear me better?
I can hear. Funnily enough, I can hear you now pretty clearly. But I'm just going to check what we get in the comments. Okay, so they're saying it's just Tony that they're struggling to hear. That's good.
Okay.
And it is.
So I'll speak up a little louder.
Yeah, so let's move on to the next point, mate. Obviously, whenever you have anything done like that, whenever you have major surgery done, it's very concerning for a start, but also length of time to get better from that can be very significant. I suppose you timed it about as perfectly as you possibly could, with the WL sort of closing down for a year effectively, or heading into the second year now. That gave you a major opportunity to get yourself back to full strength. How long did it take before you were confident?
As far as arm wrestling or working out?
Both. So working out was, I'm sure, was your indication of that initially.
Right. So working out, I felt confident probably a good 9 months into it.
Mm-hmm.
I did keep working out, just 1 pound dumbbells. Just, guy gets to be an addict, obviously. You got to work out all the time. But as far as going heavy, it was 9 months into it before I was actually able to go heavy again.
Okay.
As far as arm wrestling, I took almost a full year. And I did pull a little bit at about the 9 month mark, but I was very strict in my movements. I didn't really want to push it. The doctor said go ahead, but I was still a little hesitant.
Yeah.
Now after about a full, how long has it been now? 17, 16 months.
Yep.
I'm balls to the wall again. My pronation isn't all back as far as strength wise, but my side pressure is where it used to be. Everything's back to my hand strength. Everything's back to where it used to be, except for my pronation. I still got to work that a little bit. Obviously, it's taking a little longer for that. But
yeah, I mean, you often hear when people have. First of all, we just got a super chat. Thanks for that, Devon's classy finger. Don't trust a thing this guy says, but love him very much, mate.
yeah.
He says, "Put there, yeah." What are you saying, Neil? Can't hear you, you bastard. I don't trust him, mate. But if any, I think everybody can hear us out there now. Hopefully, I can hear Tony clear as a bell now. So hopefully, it's resolved the situation, guys. But yeah, I was just going back to saying whenever you get a serious injury like that, it can often change your style completely. Do you believe that going forward, you'll be back to the old style of arm wrestling that we've seen from you so many times and that got you the hammers, mate? Or are you going to have to change things a little bit, do you think, going forward and revert to a different style of pulling?
I think my style is going to be able to stay the same.
Yeah.
So I haven't changed much of anything. I still use a boatload of side pressure. And, I use a boatload of up pressure as well when I need to. So, yeah, my style hasn't changed at all. And I'm going to continue to keep it that way. I'm just putting a few little extra things in my arsenal as far as technical ability. And I guess that's on the plus side for my surgery. That helped me because when I went to a practice or even a small local tournament, I was no longer able to just blow through everybody because I was stronger than them. I actually had to use a lot of technique. So I was able to work on my technical ability in order to beat these people and get some of that fine-tuned. So I guess on the plus side, from the surgery, that I got better at my technical ability due to that.
Yeah. Did you feel like in your prime, mate, you'd move more towards bullying people, so you were more power-based rather than technique, or would you always describe yourself as a technical arm wrestler and power was secondary? Because obviously you've not got the biggest levers in the world. You're not sort of genetically gifted in terms of having long arms or particularly massive hands or anything like that. And yet you did seem to contain people very well.
Yeah, so I mean, my power was obviously all there. I mean, my dad, he had a six-pack all the way up until he was almost 70 years old. So my genetic potential is there. As far as technique, I was always very technical, but like you said, once I got to a certain level of strength, technical ability really doesn't need to be there as much since we're in a power sport. So I was relying more before my injury. I was relying more on power than technical ability. And the only reason I would have to use technique is if I had to pull somebody like a Sam Harris or a Justin Bishop or a bigger guy in general.
Yeah.
Then I had to use technique. So yeah, I mean, that's why I always tell everybody, if you have to, when you go to a tournament, pull bigger classes. Make yourself better on the table rather than just trying to bully through everybody in your class. Make yourself better. You have to pull bigger guys. You got to figure out a way to get around their bigger hand and stronger arm, and pull multiple classes. What's it going to hurt besides your arm?
Yeah, yeah. Devon's classy finger. Thanks, mate. Just joking. All clear now. Really appreciate that. We've had a few running gags, myself and this lad. After he got there, I'm gonna throw it in for him. Just a little bit of a. Here we go, son. There you go.
Your podcast.
Full lift on that, and I'm on the water tonight. I'm being a good lad. Midweek and all that, keeping it clean, keeping it real. Now, Tony, let's talk about the lightweight situation over in the US. First of all, let's talk about where your weight is right now, mate. So, because you look big, not going to lie. And we know that you've gone to middleweight. Where saw you in action, I'm trying to think where it was, not long ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and you destroyed the competition there. I remember the event where Church of Arm Wrestling, Jimmy Walnuts was doing the commentary there, and you were different level. You look like you crushed everybody. Now, what were you there, mate? Were you 187s or a little smaller?
I weighed 193 with my shoes and pants and shirt on.
Right. Okay.
Stepped on the scale. Weight cutoff was 198, so I wasn't concerned at all.
No.
Stepped on the scale with everything on. I was 193. I walk around right now at about 185.
So your walk around weight is 185 ordinarily.
Most people forget is that I'm so darn short.
What height are you, mate? About 5'8", 5'9"?
5'7".
5'7". Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so 5'7", and you walk around 185. Now, the last time we saw you out, obviously, you had a few problems making weight to pull Sam Harris for the title. One of the things that a lot of people sent through to the channel prior to this interview was, can you ask Tony about what he does for weight cuts and how he struggled with weight cuts in the past? Because there's a lot of sort of urban legends and sort of myths going around that you can cut a certain amount of weight. You can. Where's your sort of maximum? Where would you cut healthily, or where do you think it's viable to cut from? Because you've done some pretty big ones.
As far as healthy, none of it's healthy. But as far as cutting weight, I wouldn't go above 20 pounds.
So the most you've done is 20 pounds.
No, the most I did was 18.
Okay.
So I wouldn't go above 20. I mean, you're talking like Conor McGregor. He would go 22, 26 pounds. These other UFC guys, they go a ridiculous amount. I wouldn't do something. I wouldn't do that. I mean, that's just too much. And the only reason I didn't make weight against Sam Harris is because I just started cutting too early.
Yeah.
I tried a new cutting style, which I never should have done. I should have did what I stuck with for the last 10 times I did it. It worked for me. But this time I tried cutting about 48 hours out. By doing so, I learned a valuable lesson. It's not about how much water you lose compared to the time that you lose it.
Okay.
Cut 20 pounds of water in 24 hours by dehydrating. That's not gonna. I mean, you're not gonna die unless you're already 140 pounds. But if you in 48 hours, which sounds better, right? And it sounds like, oh, you can take your time doing it, but that's just more time that your body is being deprived of.
Oh, I've lost you there, Tony, for one moment. Let's just wait for your Wi-Fi to come back, mate. I just lost you. Can you just repeat that point, brother? I lost you for a second there. I'm not sure whether everybody did as well.
Can you hear me?
Very, very quiet. You've gone super quiet on me.
Okay, so how about now?
Yeah, much better. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, where did I leave off? I tried doing a 48-hour weight cut, water cut, and that was the first time ever trying it. Normally I do a 24-hour water cut.
Yep.
I come to find out after doing that, it's not the amount of water you lose, it's the amount of water weight you lose in time. So let's say if I would have did, I think it was 18 pounds for Sam, or 16 pounds, 17 pounds for Sam. But anyway, it was once you get past that 30-hour threshold for me anyway, that's when things really started going south.
Yeah.
I mean, I walked out of the airport in Atlanta, got to my hotel room. This is after I already called it off, weight cut off, and I was 167. and I had over 12 hours to go until the weigh-in. So that's ridiculous. You shouldn't be, if you're doing a water cut 12 hours away, and you're cutting, let's say, 15 pounds, you should still have a good 10 pounds to go. And I was only 2 pounds away, already over 30 hours in, losing water, and my body was just pretty much collapsing. My kidneys, you can tell when your kidneys are going because your back starts. It felt like there were big daggers stabbing me in the back. It felt like a bunch of needles behind my eyes. My eyes were like sunken into my head. It felt like they were sinking in my head, not just looking at them. So, but yeah, I mean, I did something that I never tried before. I love my wife. She was there with me, but she's never through this with me before. So she do. Now, I normally travel with my cousin. He's done water cuts too. But I'm sure you know, Neil, when you cut that much weight, you're mentally not all there. So I didn't know what to do. She didn't know what to do. If my cousin was there, he would have pretty much slapped me upside the face, told me to drink about 4 gallons or 4 pounds of water, make yourself feel a little bit better, and lose the rest the next day. But at that point, my focus, my intelligence was pretty much down to a kindergartner. Didn't have much.
Do you think? I mean, obviously, everybody saw it as an advantage, mate, that you were the bigger man on the day. Do you think it played out like that, or do you think you were in a bad place? Because I know mentally you weren't at your best at all. Speaking to you beforehand, you're all over the place mentally. You could tell you were very unsettled. You were, I think, a bit embarrassed, a bit pissed off. You weren't at your best. You weren't relaxed like you were going into the match, or even revved up. You looked amped in the wrong way.
Yeah, embarrassed would have been the best word.
Yeah. Well, you were taking quite a bit of abuse on it, weren't you? I think it started that little media storm, and you were off. Did that really piss you off?
No, I actually ignored it. I try to ignore a lot of stuff like that just because no matter what you do, you're going to get hated. You're going to have people hating you. And then the funny thing is, the people who are bitching about water cuts are the people who don't have to water cut. But I know of a lot of people who are bitched about water cuts in the last 5 years, but now they've gained the muscles. Now they have to water cut to get down to weight, and now it's okay. So people bitch about things until it actually affects them personally. Then they're okay with it.
Yeah.
So it's quite dramatic. And as far as all the drama and stuff, I know my cousin stuck up for me and a few other people stuck up for me. I actually told them, just let it go. Just let it go. Because it doesn't even pay to argue with some of these people because, they're thinking of themselves and that's it. Instead of the competitive level, and it's the same people too. It's the same people that they're not at the level that, like myself, Devin, Michael, Todd, they're not at that level. So they don't know the drive, right? They don't know the drive to be the best. They're not willing to put that effort in it. And I'm probably going to piss some people off by saying it, but let's be real. If they were willing to put the drive into it, they'd be out in the gym working out 4, 5, 6 nights a week like I am.
Yeah.
I have 4 kids, a wife, a mortgage, I go to school. Plus I work 50 hours a week and I still find time to work out. You got other people 40 hours a week have one kid say, I ain't got the time because they're watching their favorite TV show on TV or watching whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
Or got to have a beer at the bar with their buddies or play darts or pool. It's priorities.
Where had you been at sort of in yourself coming into that match, Tony? Do you think you were the same guy that lifted the hammers? Do you think you were that powerful or less than that, more than that? Because obviously you suffered the injury in the match with Sam. Had you had a lot of warning signs and bits of niggles, sometimes you go into these matches with your arm already a little beat up. And particularly if you're in a match where you've suffered a big injury, there's sometimes been some pretty clear warning signs prior to that. Were you aware that you had major damage in there going in?
Oh, yeah. I was. Well, first of all, I wasn't nearly. 2016, I feel, was my strongest year. I felt no pain. I felt amazing, strong as an ox. As far as going into that match, I accepted the match when Jamie called me. I accepted the match with an enormous amount of pain in my arm. And I didn't know what it was, and it was hurting since 2017.
Yep.
And that's how I know what that was. It was my UCL. And I actually went to, I want to say, at least 12 to 15 deep tissues massages. to try to break down the muscle tissue in my forearm prior to that match to make the pain subside enough just so I could compete. And, obviously, it did. It made the pain subside enough so I can compete, but that was my last match for a year because that's what this competitive person does. They say, fuck your body and let's just go for it. Who cares?
Yeah.
Just run with it.
Now, the guy you were facing there, obviously, is the current hammer holder, Sam Harris. He was third place finisher when you took the titles. Craig Sanders being the guy you faced in the final. But it's fair to say that you had a good run through that tournament all day. You were just able to find exactly where you wanted to be on the tournament. You looked very, very technically on point. You were shutting people's games down. Your hand and wrist looked extremely solid, really, really solid. Did you feel that Sam has upped his game, or has yours fallen away a little bit? Where do you sort of see the levels? Because the reason where I'm going to go with this, mate, is following the win in 16, you then took the decision to go up to middleweight. And I'm trying to get an indication of where you feel your level was at. Is it that you feel that the WL lightweight division or the North American lightweight division you'd sort of surpassed at that time, so you were looking for that bigger challenge, or how did that come about?
Well, I made that challenge. I wanted to go up because obviously I wanted to be the first person to win 2 hammers or a hammer in both weight classes.
Okay.
That guy, because when are you there?
Yeah, still got you.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to be the first guy to win a hammer in both weight classes. Unfortunately, I hurt myself left arm in September of 2016, pulling Ron Bath.
As you do.
Right. We started out, on the practice table on the side, and I top rolled him, and I blew through him pretty easily in the strap left-handed. But then we got into the hook, and it was a good 30 second match of brutal back. I felt my left shoulder, something happened, and it hurt like hell after that. And I actually got 3 cortisone shots before the 2017 finals of the WAF in my left shoulder.
Yeah.
My right must have been probably early September, late August sometime. I had a buddy come over, and he wanted to train. And I said, well, I've overtrained already this week. I'm not going to arm wrestle.
Yep.
And he said, that's fine. I said, but you can work out with me if you want. Now, I was going to take the night off because I had already overtrained that week. I could feel it. But then once we started showing him, I started showing him what to do and how to do it. Then obviously you start doing it. And I was doing a simple pronation workout. That I do. I got a 12-pound ball that I do my pronation workouts with. And as I was doing it, my inner elbow popped in my right arm. And that's when my elbow started hurting on my right arm, which eventually led to the UCL tear, and obviously the pronator ripping off the bone of my feet. But I just kind of, I have no doubt in my mind if I didn't go through those 2 injuries, that I know darn well left-handed, I most likely would have took a hammer in 2007. Right? I don't know, because Todd Huckins is a freak, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know if it would have been happening, right? But left hand, I don't have a doubt it would have happened.
Wow. So your confidence was obviously very high, and you had some real, very, very powerful left. I mean, you were in some screaming career enders at that 2017 middleweight class. I think you got into an unbelievable battle with Danny Tesh, didn't you? Danny Tesh was getting in wars left, right, and centre. He'd come off the back of a massive war with Talbot. He had another one with Frode Hogeland on the right arm. And then on the left arm, was it left or right that he pulled you and had a screamer? I'm trying to remember which.
I think that was right-handed.
Was it right-handed? Yeah, you had an absolute war. It was a tremendous battle. You were like, he was holding at the base, wasn't he, for ages, and then you were holding him at the base. It was a cracking battle.
I don't know how he did it. I had his wrist cracked all the way back, everything. It just, he held it within about a half an inch from that pad, and I couldn't finish. Eventually, your shoulder starts tiring, and your forearm starts tiring, and your back starts tiring. Eventually, I had nothing left. I don't know how the man does it. He eventually beat me, and then he went back and beat the next guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how he did it. You know, the stamina and Danny Tech is at a whole nother level.
Yeah, it literally is. It is literally at another level. He's part God, and I think that's what does it. It's the power of being omnipotent, really. I think more than anything else. So let me ask you the question, mate. Where is the future for Tony Kitowski in terms of? In fact, you know what? Let's take a breather. We'll come back to that, and let's go on to your most recent escapades. Okay, so we've seen you in action this year, and you were killing people, and then you got a pretty exciting offer, didn't you? For the people who don't know, just fill us in a little bit on exactly what went down in terms of what you were offered.
First one, Neil, can you pronounce his name?
Mazgan.
Mazgan. Okay, so yes, I was offered a.
I understood it. That's who you were pulling.
Yes, some people probably remember Cobra coming on saying he's got a match, an offer for somebody, left hand, 176. I thought, what a great opportunity. So I reached out to Cobra. He said, well, all said and done, I ended up getting the match.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan was they were going to fly me over to Kazakhstan, take care of all my expenses with a little bit of money on top of it. And, you know, I was going to pull Mazgan, left-handed, best of, I think it was 5. No, it was best of 6.
Yep.
So I was pretty excited just to travel a little bit, a little nervous at the same time, too, with the COVID restrictions. You know, I was a little nervous about getting stuck over there or something when I got my family here. But he had reached out to me about 2 weeks ago and asked what airport I'm flying on. And I said, well, hold off a little bit. I'm working with another guy who's going to be flying with me. And that I didn't tell him any more info.
Oh, okay.
That person was Cobra. So, and Cobra was going to be over there that week anyway to do part of his film shoot. So he was going to shoot a film that week in Kazakhstan.
Yep.
So, well, we'll ride together. And I think what he was waiting for is he was waiting for his producer to give him some information.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to base that off of my flight. So then like I said, I told Mazgan to hold off a little bit. Well, Mazgan, he was kind of running. Mazgan must have been also doing the planning of this whole event or something too, because he was the one that was reaching out to me. Okay. But he must have when I said hold off, he must have took that as cancel the match.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, so about a week went by, and I'm advertising it on Facebook and all this. Well, then I reach out to Mazgan and I say, hey, what's the weigh-in times? How long do I have to, when I get there to the tournament? Is there actually a tournament, or just a round robin type thing, or a super match type thing? I was asking some questions, and he said, I'm sorry, sir, I thought you canceled the match. No, I didn't cancel the match. I just said hold off on the flight. But by that time, he had already accepted another match from a gentleman in Turkey at that same time frame. So that the whole thing, because of a miscommunication, got put off. And I'm sure eventually it'll happen in the future if this whole COVID thing backs off. But unfortunately, that got canceled due to miscommunication.
Now that would have been a bloody interesting match right there. That would
right,
have been
and he's crazy fast.
Oh yeah, I mean, do you watch a lot of the Kazakh pullers, and stylistically, do you see the differences and how they pull very differently from most of the people in the world, to be honest?
Big time, yeah. And there's probably because they pull, the way they pull is more joint oriented, shoulder roll, hook, a lot of power, right? A lot of power, a lot of speed, and I'm guessing, but that's probably why they don't get very old in the sport. If the U.S. pullers, we pull more conservatively, and there's guys that have been pulling for 40 years, 30 years, 20 years. In the European countries, you just don't see that. They're for 10 years, 15 years max, and then they're done. Sometimes even. So I think that's the whole time frame on why they don't get to pull as long, is because they're stylistic of pulling.
Yeah.
But their style puts us, North Americans over here at a whole different disadvantage because we're not used to that speed. That's what it's fast. Mazgan's set up loose too. That was another thing. I was going to have to go against a guy who sets up loose.
Yes, absolute dead loader. Have you had a lot of experience with people who are obviously not pulling the same style as you were going to face from the Kazakhs, because they're pretty unique in that respect? But have you had a lot of style and a lot of time, excuse me, pulling guys who dead load, the likes of, let's say, Mosier, for example, who would go with a top, more of a pronated top roll attack, but does it from a dead load? Have you faced that kind of opponent? And if so, how have you gone with them, mate? Is that somebody you enjoy arm wrestling against, or do you struggle more with that because they're not matching the power?
Well, as far as dead loading, I personally have never had a problem with it. There's ways around it, right? So somebody dead loads on you. Hang on 1 second. When somebody dead loads on you, there's ways you can, essentially beat the dead load. And one of the biggest ways is the strap. You can neutralize it, right? So when you get into the strap, and if you position yourself correctly in the strap, they may not, even though they're dead loading, they may not feel as comfortable, or I should say as comfortable, to be able to get in their position, or like a Mazgan in that big, fast shoulder roll position, because they may feel their hands already compromised. Because in the strap, you can feel more. Even when there's no pressure on there, you can feel your opponent more in the strap.
It's interesting. That can work both ways, though, can't it? Because somebody who's looking for that connection on the arm, particularly if they feel that they've got a stronger arm than you, or just a lot more velocity than you, can actually enjoy the fact that they're tied to you, particularly if they feel you're running. I mean, I'm not sure you would be running, mate.
No, I would.
You tend to go through, just crack them all through. But
run my whole plan against him. I don't know if I'm going to pull him in the future or not. My plan against him was simply a high hook, and I was not going to try to run from him at all. And I
actually expected that you'd do pretty much that. I thought you'd either just stay completely center and try to just create height and go sort of through him with side and top, or you'd supinate in and high hook him. I expected that would be the case, because I was imagining that you'd think, well, if I can catch him anywhere from sort of a third across to A side, you'd be in the match, because obviously you've got a tremendous amount of power.
Right. So if I were to able to catch him in a high hook, when you go into a high hook, you got a tremendous amount of supination and pronation. You're not limited to the high hook. You can also pronate around that. You can take his wrist if you choose to. So that was my whole plan. And if I was going to, because he's so fast, my plan was, if I were to catch him, I was going to tire him out. Kind of like what I did with Doug earlier. I just sat there for a little bit, tired him out, and then I brought him down. Mazgan's a little different because his stamina is really good. So, but that was the whole plan. And obviously, plans don't always work. I was willing to change it up and try new things.
So, what weight were you going to pull him out, Tony?
76.
76 was the match. Okay, so not that hard for you.
No, in fact, I'm pulling June 5th. I'm pulling 176 at Michigan.
Okay, who's that against, mate? Is that a class, or is it a super match?
That's going to be a class.
Okay. Now then, we've had some questions in the chat. Firstly, a lot of people want to know how you view the lightweights at the moment in the WAL, and who you rate as the biggest threats within the World Arm Wrestling League roster on the lightweight division. But if we're going to answer that question, I think it's probably fair to look at it with the added inclusions of the guys who would have been featured in the 2020 season had it gone ahead. So that would involve a couple of new characters in there. Probably most notably Mindaugas, I would think. Mindaugas Terasatis was going to be in there and is very, very high level. Now, a lot of people felt like your next match, or certainly the next match for the Hammer, and then would end up with yourself, would probably be Janis Amelins. So straight away, you've got from the Baltic region 2 really powerful lads. We also potentially had the influx of someone like Jordan Davis from Australia. Tom Holland's a guy you've never pulled from the UK. And then the crop of solid North Americans that are in there, the leader of which obviously is Sam with the rematch. Do you feel like that's done and dusted now, regardless of the weight concerns, or do you feel like there's still unfinished business with Sam Harris?
There's always unfinished business, right? But as far as the weight, until we get a confirmation of what's going on, I haven't really been too concerned. Like I said, I can easily make 176. That's not hard for me. I can do that without it really cutting water. But 65s, if they were to call me tomorrow and say, I want you to pull anybody at 65s, I'll take the match.
Yeah.
But call me tomorrow and say, I want you to pull Justin Bishop at 98s, I'll take the match. So I guess I'm leaving myself in their boat, in the WAL's boat.
Mm-hmm.
If they want me to pull in the 198, I'll pull the 198. If they want me to pull in the 65, I'll pull in the 65. Because let's face it, I had surgery now, so I'm not dealing with the injuries I had before. And from 2016, from my injury all the way from 2019, when I blew my elbow out, I couldn't work side pressure anymore. That's no longer the case. So my side pressure is gaining and it's coming back real fast. So it's not quite where it used to be, but I can see within the next year I'll be probably right back to where I was, if not stronger.
What's your preference in weight? Where would you prefer to arm wrestle? If you had to sort of pick your own path and you had the ability to call out your own matches, where would they be and who would they be?
Well, first of all, there's a guy in California. I think his name is Beck or something like that. I don't know, he's bald. Left hand is supposed to be unbeatable.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, wait. I think we had the question asked earlier on.
I'd like to pull him just because of his.
So you want to pull Vresh?
Yes.
Holy shit! So it's middleweight. Oh, right, because Vresh at the moment I think's more like the 187 mark. I'm pretty sure he's kicking around about that. If anybody knows Vresh's current weight, I think he's bigger. I think he's around the middle. He used to pull the 65 class back in the day and world title at that, but. Yeah, I looking at Reg, I think he's probably 185 pounds, 187 pounds, somewhere there abouts. He's always in reasonable condition, but like all of us, he's thickened out a bit. Not as young as springtime no more, but strong as balls.
But yeah,
particularly with that left arm.
He looks strong.
Oh, mate, with his left, he's immoral.
Right.
He is the
wizard
of hits. So, yeah, very, very interesting. Very interesting. How would you approach that match, mate, knowing that you've got such a stayer? I mean, he's so much stamina.
Well, I can't really tell you that now, can I? Because I have a feeling it's probably going to happen.
Secret.
Even if I have to make it happen.
All right, so you are pursuing that. That's one you want.
That's the one I want, yes.
Okay, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. Now, going back to what we were saying earlier, who's the threats? Are there any threats in the lightweight division?
As far as to beat Sam Harris in the WAL style, I don't see it happening. Here's why. Because Sam Harris is definitely not one of the strongest arm wrestlers out there, by far. When I pulled Sam out of the strap, I bet you I overpowered him 2-1. There was next to nothing there. But you put that kid in the strap, it's a whole different ball. And I'm not going to go into detail because I'd be kind of giving away some of the secrets and what he does. But man, how he can do what he does in a strap is it boggles my mind. I've tried it so many times and I can't do it.
Yeah,
I don't know how he does it, but you can't get the leverage you used to. You can't get the back pressure. You can't get the side pressure. The way he attacks your wrist in the strap is unlike I've ever felt. I've never felt that from any other arm wrestler. And he was probably 15 pounds lighter than me.
So you were pretty much
in that weight class. Yeah, like Giannis. People are saying Giannis, but as soon as Giannis gets in the strap, which is going to happen with him, he's most likely going to lose the match in the strap.
Very interesting. So you've got Harris over Amelins. You think that Sam would beat Giannis in the WAL?
I do, yes.
Wow.
If he's able to slip, which I can see him doing, he will beat Giannis. Jeff Hale, he put a great match against Sam, but that's because Jeff is crazy fast.
Yeah,
he's able to get Sam into the hook. 2 matches, almost a third match, and Jeff would have won that if he wouldn't have fouled out.
Yeah, I was just going to say Jeff Hale made a pretty similar point to the one you've just made there, where he was very much of the opinion that Sam Harris, and he wasn't saying this as a slight on Sam Harris either, just to be absolutely clear, but he said that Sam Harris had perfected the World Arm Wrestling League format to the point where he could ride the line of what he got away with perfectly, and it made him extremely difficult to beat. Now, in a roundabout way, that's pretty much sounds to me like what you're saying as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like I said, his style and strap is just, and the reason why I say that is, as far as, Jeff Hale, he'll probably be the best option to see another screamer with him, because these other guys that are in there, I don't think are as fast as Jeff. I mean, Tom Holland maybe.
Tom, I've got very, 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 very high hopes for Tom Holland. I think Tom Holland will shock the shit out of people when he comes back, because he's been injured so long.
Too. He might be able to get Sam in the hook, and if he can get him in the hook, Tom, I feel, will beat Sam, especially with his endurance. I don't feel Giannis is fast enough to get Sam in the hook. I really don't.
That's really interesting, because Sam probably would have started on a lot of people's card as the underdog there. I'd like to ask Jeff the same question, but I think a lot of people would have had Giannis backed in that match. Oh, we just got a super chat from Chris Gamo. Chris, thanks for super chat, mate. He's just put, great to see Tony. Always an entertaining arm wrestler. Absolutely. And then he's put, man, we really need some matches, Neil. What do we need to do to get regular events with 3 to 5 matches on a card? Live or pay-per-view, I don't care. Neither do I, mate. I would love to get some arm wrestling away. At this point in time, it's very, very difficult. I mean, the biggest hurdle is the travel. Canada's locked down. We're locked down effectively. It's made it almost impossible for us to travel anywhere. I don't know what it's like over for you in the States, mate. Obviously, traveling internally, I'm assuming is no problem, but there are a lot of countries you won't be able to fly to. Yeah, just an awful difficult time. But the good thing is that in the United States, at least you guys are coming out and now starting to pull again. You say we've already seen you in action once. And when are we seeing you again, mate? When are you out there pulling again?
I got a super match against, his name is Chris Jellings, and I'm traveling down to, it's actually in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It's Wisconsin State event. So, and I got a super match with Chris Jellings. He's a big boy. He's like probably 240.
Holy shit.
He's a big boy. So, and I like pulling bigger guys. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to pull him in May 15th, and then June 5th, that weekend, which is supposed to be the match weekend I was going to pull Masvin.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm no longer going to Kazakhstan, so now I'm going to go to the event in Michigan, Steve Pettis' state event, and giving away a Harley. So I'm going to pull 76s right and left, and if one of my friends is coming, Sam Tabbert, I'm not going to pull 98, but if he doesn't come, I'll probably pull 76s and 98s.
Okay, so you're going to go a couple of classes. Now, word on the grapevine was, mate, that you had a call, you've been called out by Justin Bishop also. Now,
I didn't hear him call my name out, but he did say he believes he's the best left-hander in the country at the point.
Okay, so it's not direct. We had that in the chat. Somebody put in there, asked Tony about the Bishop situation. I mean, you've pulled Tony, what, twice in the WAL, is it?
I pulled Justin, let's see, 1, 2, 3 times in the WAL and 1 time outside of the WAL.
Yeah, so you guys pulled twice in the WAL and 1 time outside. Now, am I right in thinking that you've won all 3 encounters? Certainly you won the WL matches, didn't you?
Correct. I won all 3 WAL. Yeah, I won all 4 matches.
Okay.
I've never pulled him. I've never pulled Justin.
How do you see that match?
Depends how strong he is right now. Now, if you were to ask myself 2 years ago, yeah, I would have blew through him. But since my shoulder injury, and now my shoulder's been good for the last year, it's hitting it hard again. So it could go both ways. I know it'd be a screamer. There's no doubt about it. But the thing with Bishop's match is either they're like Travis Bajan. Either they're quick or he loses. More either. So if he feels compromised, he'll just lay his arm down.
No, he's got an incredible hand and wrist also, hasn't he? So, and to be fair, his left hand has looked in it's looked in top shape recently. He's got probably got every reason to believe that he is the number one lefty out there, you know. And I guess we'll get a good read on where he's at because he's pulling Talbot shortly, isn't he?
Yeah, he's pulling Talbot left-handed. You know, here's a shout out for you. Here's a opportunity. There's some crazy left-hand arm wrestlers out there. So you want to see throw myself, Bishop, that guy from California.
Reg.
Yeah, throw us all in the round robin, see what happens. How awesome would that be?
Yeah, it'd be great. You'll not hold your dick for a week, but yeah, it'd be awesome. Definitely.
Yeah, you're right. No doubt.
Yeah, hell, you're not kidding, mate. I'll tell you what. About that one.
Bring that 2015 regionals event back to the WAL. That was massive. Mm-hmm. That was 1,000+ people arm wrestlers. That was awesome.
Now, what year was it you pulled in the northern region and you got into that screamer with Randy Bayers? Was that the 16 regional northern?
16
yeah, that was another cracking regional event, full of absolute stars. That one also, it really was. Let me ask you a question. Obviously, you've got an appetite to pull some of these European guys, yeah. You were going to go over and pull Mazgan. There's other exceptional arm wrestlers in or around that weight class. We're potentially going to see a couple of them in action very shortly. If Arthur can get over to Turkey, but Talgat would be another guy who's. Are you familiar with Talgat? Have you seen him pull from Kazakhstan?
I have that.
In my opinion, the best of the Kazakhs around that weight. Just an absolute monster. In terms of the guys that are on your radar from Europe, were you familiar with Mindaugas Terasaitis? Have you seen him arm wrestle? Have you got any opinions of him?
No, I don't do a whole lot of research from Europeans or nothing because there's no reason.
Yep.
There's going to be a competitor for myself. Why should I look him up, right? Because I'm busy enough as it is. But I can tell you, my plan was in the year 2022, I did want to go to the Zloty.
Okay.
So feet over there. Now I don't even know if it's happening anymore. So I've heard.
Well, if it's not happening in 2022, mate, I'm going to be one depressed fatty. Let me tell you now. If we're still struggling in the 2022, I'll be extremely upset. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a good opportunity that some of these guys will come to you as well, mate. If WAL's underway again, I think you'd be meeting some of these guys because Mindaugas, if he did come over to the WAL, will definitely make a noise because we're talking world class. He's rock strong, you know. So yourself, a fresh and recouped Tom Holland, I would hope, touch wood, that we'd see Randy Byers back in there as well because Randy's very, very strong, you know, and it could be an exciting class, not to mention, obviously, the mainstays of people like Jeff Hale, who you can't forget about. Jeff, what's your opinions of Hale, mate? How do you rate Jeff?
I'd like to feel his arm again. I have felt his arm since 2014 at your Arm Wars? 14 or 15 or something like that.
Yeah, in Vegas, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I'd like to feel his strength again. I know damn well it'd be a screamer, right? Because he's pure power on the inside. And I don't think I'm able to get him out of the hook. So I think it would be pure power one-on-one on the inside if him and I pull. So yeah, I mean, I don't think he beat me. I really don't. I think I've gotten too strong since then. But he hasn't been sitting around, getting fat and being lazy either.
No, very diligent lad.
Right.
Very diligent. A great arm wrestler. He really is. Very, very solid individual. And also that left, he's another one like you. He's got the left and the right ticked, so yeah. Very strong.
That was kind of crazy.
What about the new lad? Oh, we just got a super chat in, mate. James Dean. Thanks, mate. Thanks very much, mate. We've got I think this is for Tony. He's just put Tony. Milwaukee Mayhem says just send it. Milwaukee Mayhem. Is that one of your crews that you train with out there, bud?
Yeah, that's my fucking motto is just fucking send it. I train with Milwaukee Mayhem, and there's a huge group of guys and girls over there too that they not only are future and up and comers, they make it fun.
Yeah,
there's people like James Dean. He's an upcomer. Stephen, I can't even pronounce his last name, or his brother Brian. Danielle, can't pronounce her name either. She's probably going to be another world champion. Angela Matthews, she trains over there as well.
Okay.
Some big names that are training out of Milwaukee. And it's 2.5 hours south of me, but I still take the trip because it's worth it. Yeah,
you bet your ass. You got a big crew of guys like that. It's ace. Absolutely. It's good times in arm wrestling for that. I mean, even with the restrictions on practices and so on that COVID have put in, we've seen some big turnouts at places, you know, and that's nice. And I actually think the Arm Bet app's going to make that so much easier, makes people more accessible. You know, it's a wonderful tool, really is. So
apparently there's an arm wrestler that lives about, according to Arm Bet's app, about 2 miles from me. Never heard of the guy in my life, but he's an arm wrestler.
But isn't that great? Isn't that great that you can find that out? You know what I mean?
There's a guy who lives 5 miles from me who found me because of that app.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good times. It's a wonderful tool and it'll revolutionize things going forward. I genuinely believe that. Let's try and get back on track where we were. I'm just going to fire down some of these comments and see what we got. Let's have a look here. Now, yeah, it's interesting you were talking about some of the new guys coming up. What about the old guys that are still around, mate? Talk to me about Greg Gray. You know much about Greg Gray?
How long has he been arm wrestling?
Oh, Christ. He was in the sport, then he went out of the sport, and I'm talking sort of, 15, 20 years ago, then went out of the sport, then came back to the sport, but he came back with a bang. And he used to weigh far, far less. I did an interview with Greg, lovely lad, and he said he was around 130 odd pounds, I think. And then he came back and obviously won Arnold's, which was probably his biggest recent win, although he's then been involved in super matches and he's been doing very well there. He's actually got a super match coming up, I believe, with Matt Craig, who looks very ready at the moment. Yes. So, yeah, I think Matt's super confident, so he obviously feels really good about himself at this point in time. Greg trains hard, as we know, so that needle always adds to a match as well. You know, when you, and there's nothing will get you out of bed more than a match against someone that you really want those bragging rights about, you know, that you've really got that little bit of tension with.
Greg, he pulled Corey Miller here some time ago, and he had a good match with Corey before Greg, I think, tore his bicep, if I remember right.
Mm.
There's another one for you, Corey Miller, right? So,
mate, Corey, I think Corey's a fabulous arm wrestler. The fact that he's not featured in the WL is a travesty in many respects because he really is rock strong.
So, he obviously was being held back due to injury, whatever he had. So once that's, you see Corey coming back and making some huge waves, or depending on where he wants to go. If he wants to travel over to the north, waves just right here in the country, no doubt.
Have you pulled Corey before, mate, in tournament?
Yeah, I pulled him once in Minnesota. That was, I was just coming back to the sport. I think it was 2013.
Yeah.
Left. I don't know if I pulled him right. I pulled him left a couple times. I beat him there. Well, he pulled 8 classes too. But we pulled fresh. Yeah, but I
8 classes, right? Nice.
And I beat him the first match.
Yeah.
Screamer, and then obviously I easily beat him the second time because he was pulling 50 classes. But then I pulled him again at the UAL 8, I think it was, in California, and that's he beat me there. He's been back and forth. But I haven't pulled him since then, but he hasn't really been in the league.
No. Well, I think that's what's worked against him, Tony. Oh, I'm losing you again there, mate, as well on your sound for some reason. I don't know whether that's the Wi-Fi, but I think that's what's worked against Corey because there was a time when Corey was everywhere and anywhere, and then he sort of drifted out of the sport quite a bit, and you didn't see him at all. And then when he came back, it was almost like they were as an established crop of pullers in the WL, and he wasn't amongst that. But he was always that outlier. A little bit like Luke Kint. When Luke's always got to be somebody that you're aware of because Luke comes in ready. He's really, really, really strong, But
I've never pulled Luke. That drives me nuts.
Shit, have you never pulled Luke either? How the hell have you avoided him?
I haven't. I think he's avoided me because he doesn't fly.
My God, yeah, I'm surprised actually. I thought you would have come across each other. I really did. That's do you think that's a match that you like stylistically or not?
Oh, absolutely. He's got a huge hit, but I don't think he's got enough side pressure to work in my arm like he does most.
Oh, quick super chat that's coming here from Kamil Chipala. And he said, £5. Does Tony speak any Polish? Kitowski, obviously, with the name. Do you speak Polish at all? Not. Yeah. I think they asked the same question of John, because obviously it's Polish name, Brzezinski, as it's pronounced in Polish. And I remember I was on a press conference when we went over to the Zloty Tour years ago, or Nemiroff Cup as it was then. And yeah, they asked the same question of John, but yeah, again, no knowledge of the language. But yeah, proud race. Some great arm wrestlers in Poland, mate. They really are. Fabulous country of arm wrestlers. Really is. So if we see you over at the Nemiroff Cup or the Zloty Tour, what weight would you go?
72.
Okay, yeah. So you would cut for that. Makes sense. Makes all the sense in the world that you'd lose the weight for that one.
Weight class for me personally, I mean, that just works for me, is a perfect weight.
Okay.
I'm not killing myself to make 165, because 172 to 160, that's a big difference when all you're losing is water.
Oh yeah, huge. Yeah.
I mean, you only got to lose 6 pounds of water. That's next to nothing compared to what we've done. So I think that weight class for me is ideal.
Why do you like pulling the big men, mate? I'm interested in you. You're saying when you like to pull bigger lads. Obviously, that's a lot of fun. There's an inherent risk attached to that as well, though, isn't there? Particularly when you're a shorter lad, because, and I don't mean shorter just in terms of your height, but also in levers, because you can end up stretched out really easily, and then there's more risk of you damaging yourself. What's the appeal of pulling the big guys for you?
Well, first, there's two main reasons. Number one, I'm stronger than most of the people my size, so it gives me more competition. But the main reason is it makes me think. It makes me think about the match. How am I going to work around his hand? This guy's got sausage fingers. How am I going to get around them? Do I hook him, or is his hand or wrist too thick for me to hook? Does he know how to arm? So it makes me think a lot more at the table, which essentially makes me a better arm wrestler. It's all around.
Yeah, I have another question that had come into the channel here, and it said, Tony's been in the sport for a long period of time. How long have you been arm wrestling, Tony, in total? Sorry, say again, mate. We lost your signal again.
19 years.
So 19 years. Okay. And who were your biggest inspirations in the sport of arm wrestling, mate? Who are the guys that you've looked up to most and your sort of favorite pullers?
Well, number one, John Brzezinski. Without a doubt, John Brzezinski. And if you were to watch his style and my style, with a few tweaks because I'm shorter, you pull fairly similar. All the way from catching the hook to the low foam top roll, some of the strap setups. You pull very similar, and it's not, I'm just because I'm copying him based on how he pulls. But like I said, I had to tweak some things because I'm not his stature either. I'm not his biggest. I don't got the lead. I don't got the hand size or nothing. So John Brzezinski is clearly, to me, the main arm wrestler I've always looked up to. As far as stylistically, as far as power, I've looked up to Todd Hutchings, trying to figure out where he gets it, how he neutralizes it. So I've really looked at how he trains, and so forth, and I've made that my own too. And as far as just like pure off pressure, see in 2016 when I hurt my tendon popped in my right arm, I no longer work my side pressure, I had to figure something else out, right? Well, that's when I started working my up pressure. I started training my up pressure by watching Travis Bajan and what he or how he does it at the table, and I took that to my workout room and I made it work for me. So my style, if you watch from 2016 to 2017, went from all side pressure in 2016 to all up pressure in 2017.
Yeah.
So now with my surgery, and I'm able to apply both up pressure and side pressure, I think that's going to really excel me. It'll excel me fast.
Got a quick question here from Aaron Bruce in the chat. Have you ever arm wrestled RVJ?
That's another guy I've always wanted to pull. I really always wanted to pull him. RVJ, he's always pulled like Storm Polino, Justin Bishop, Craig Touye. You know, you got Storm Polino, who's got a crazy strong hand and wrist, right? But not a whole lot of side pressure. You got Justin Bishop with a crazy strong hand and wrist, but once again, not a whole lot of side pressure. But he's got a good amount. Then you got Craig Touye, he's just a super fast, strong shoulder roll, bicep drag hit guy. But RVJ, in my opinion, hasn't really pulled anybody besides Todd Hutchings. So he hasn't even pulled Todd in the last few years. He hasn't really pulled anybody with a boatload of side pressure. That would essentially attack his inner bicep, the weak part of his bicep. And that's how I would pull him, is with a boatload of side pressure, with a little bit of up pressure with wrist control. So, I mean, I personally think myself and Rob Vinci Jr. would be a great matchup. Would I win? I don't know. I have no idea. But I can't tell you that I feel it would be a great matchup and it would be a screamer. I can guarantee you that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
so you feel stylistically you're well made to deal with Rob.
Right, because of his large hand, people have to avoid or try to avoid his hand. If you're like Storm Polino, who usually uses his hand, you can't avoid his hand. That's how Storm pulls. Me, given my hand is crazy strong, I also have the tremendous side pressure to back my hand and wrist.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you can watch like Justin Bishop, how he beat him his first round and almost beat him second round. It was off the side pressure. That was all it was. You know, so Rob is a crazy strong arm wrestler with huge advantage with the hand size, but he's also got a huge disadvantage due to his lack of side pressure.
Interesting. Is that a match you're actively pursuing as well? When you've talked about you're pulling more frequently in the middleweight division in North America. Is Rob someone you'd look to try to get into a match with?
Oh, absolutely. I'd love to pull Rob. Anybody else there wants to set it up, by all means, do it. Let's make it happen.
Who are the other guys in the middleweight division that you're trying to tick off, mate? Have you pulled with Mosier? Have you pulled with a lot of the big hitters, Herman Stevens?
No, I mean, I haven't really traveled to the West Coast, so
okay.
Sure. I've never pulled him. I've seen him pull. You know, he's another freak genetic freak.
Your mic's dropping off, mate, again, unfortunately.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you again now. Your mic was in and out there big time.
Okay, so yeah, Daniel Mosier, he's just downright strong, right? With a crazy strong hip. But once again, there's ways you can neutralize that. And his hand is literally like iron. It just doesn't move. But you can take Chad Silver and pin him like he did. That's impressive. Chad always had, when I was younger, always had the strongest hand in the game. You avoided Chad's hand. And Mosier blew through Chad's hand. So that was impressive.
Yeah.
Given I remember it 10 years ago, not yesterday, because I don't know if Chad's been training. I have no idea, but that's very impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So Daniel Mosier that'd be an interesting one to say the least.
There's a couple of guys in that middleweight division that I'd have been interested to see you arm wrestle. Touye would have been one, because I've never seen you pull him.
I have. I pulled him in 2000.
Have you?
And I set up for the top roll, or straight side top roll, and he did his typical, nowadays huge shoulder roll hip, and he flashed. He put me right down quick.
Okay.
So it was a superstar showdown. It was a round robin, so
right.
I never got.
Interesting.
But yeah. So
what about Chad? Have you pulled Silvers?
I've never pulled Chad Silvers.
Yeah, that's in because again, Chad's not dissimilar in terms of build, because Chad's come up from the lighter weights. I mean, and when I was back in the day, when I would go to the World Championships, I think the first time I saw Chad was probably Israel or Greece. So I'll think back, but he was pulling in the bloody hell. something like the 47s or something like that. It was he was super light that day. You know, pulled his balls off. There was him, Wims was out there, a lot of the old school sort of bantamweight arm wrestlers from the US. And Chad was a very, very complete arm wrestler back then, you know. And then you've just seen him progress through the weights of late. But he's still obviously got that small frame. We stacked so much muscle onto his frame, but he's not got the best levers in the world. So that could be a very, very interesting match, you and him. I'd like to see that when you're at your best. Right,
yeah, that would be a good match. He's like, excuse me, he's like some of the other guys out there that uses all hands. If you're to watch Chad pull, he doesn't have a lot of time. All hand strength, wrist strength. So I mean, that could be a very interesting pull, but I would go with him.
So I'm just looking at the time. We've got about another 5 minutes to go, guys. Any more questions you've got for Tony, please send them in. Tony, firstly, mate, thanks for coming on the show. Been an absolute pleasure to have you on here. When you're next out and in action, obviously, are you open to taking super matches now? Have you been approached by anyone after the Uzbek thing, Kazakhstan thing? Sorry, has anybody come on to you? The likes of Jeff Frank and people of that nature. Anybody trying to sort of tout for your services in the interim? We've seen that with a number of the Wild Stars.
No, I haven't gotten.
Been overlooked.
I haven't gotten reached out by anybody. And I've been waiting to go in the ring. Trust me, I should probably start reaching out a little bit more.
No, but I'm sure that they will come, mate. I think it may be just the reluctance, obviously, because of the fact that you were so heavily involved with the World Arm Wrestling League. But obviously, at this point in time, I don't think you get too much resistance for pulling some matches. So I'm sure there's so many matches as I start to go through it mentally with who you could arm wrestle at what class. It's crazy. I mean, like you said, I'd love to see the Vrez match. That'd be great. Either arm, to be perfectly honest. Left arm. Is your left your better arm, do you think?
Yeah, it's my better arm, yeah.
That would be a bloody good match, mate, because it's definitely Vrez's better arm by a mile. He's much stronger left than right, you know.
That'd be a good one to pull both, you know. 5 left, 5 right.
I'll tell you what, mate, you'll know you've been in an arm wrestling match. Win, lose, or draw, you will know you've been in an arm wrestling match with that guy, because God damn, he's got some stamina. And there's a number of new guys that are sort of on the rise that I'd like to see you pull. Guys, particularly middleweights, if I'm honest. Particularly middleweights. And I'm thinking the likes of... In fact, let me know if you've pulled any of these. Have you pulled Merlo, Jason Merlo? Yeah, that would be one I'd like to see you pull. What about Robbie Russell?
Never pulled him, no.
Yeah, so many big matches out there for you, mate.
So generally, if they're outside of the Midwest, I have probably never pulled them.
So Oleg Mosai would be another one you've not pulled.
Right.
I'm assuming. Oh, mate, I could get you in some arm wrestling matches. I really could.
Well, hurry up and open the countries. Let's do this.
Yeah. I've got to be honest, mate. I like you and Tom Holland. I think that's a great match.
That would be a good match.
Yeah. I think that's one of the best matches out there. Both arms, to be perfectly honest. I think you and Tom match very well. I really do.
I agree. And he's very smart IQ table IQ. So he could change his game in the middle of it. You know what I mean? If there's something working for him, he loses. He's not going to come back the same way. He's going to come back different.
Yeah. Yeah, very complete arm wrestler. Very fast also. Very fast. His left has probably improved. He's had so many injuries on the right that he's worked his left pretty tirelessly. So the level on the left arm's high. In fact, we've got an event going on, COVID permitting, touch wood. We've got an event going on in October. The Arnold Classic UK Arm Wars is coming back for that. And we could have a very, very interesting card there. Very interesting card. So if there's any dropouts there, mate, I'll keep you in the loop. And yeah, we'd love to get you over here. Absolutely love to. Tony, I want to say thanks for coming on, mate. We're going to let you jump off here. We've been on for over an hour now. Ladies and gents in the chat, I want to say thank you, everybody, for taking the time, tuning in, checking out the show. Hope you enjoyed it. Sorry about the issues with the microphone tonight. I had a couple of issues, I think, on the Wi-Fi, and Tony's been struggling with that. We're trying to get it sorted out before we came on. I do hope that it didn't damage the enjoyment of the show too much. Tony, thanks, mate. And we'll be back on here, I'm sure, very soon.
Awesome. Thanks, Neil. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, brother. All the best, guys. We'll see you again. Remember, for those of you in the chat, tomorrow we are going to be back on live, and we've got Levan Saganashvili, a man many people believe is the very best in the world in the super heavyweight division. We'll find out his thoughts on a lot of things in the sport. He's on here tomorrow. Keep your eyes out for the updates, and we'll be putting that up soon. Cheers, guys. All the best. Stay strong, stay stoic, mother fluffers.